All right. Let's see. We good? We good. Okay. Hey, everybody. Welcome to today's episode of Crypto with Chris. What is it? Monday. Today is Monday. Yeah, we got the start of a new week. We got a bunch of new good stuff to dig into, some new levels to look at. We had a new high over the past week. I wasn't around on Thursday. It was Thanksgiving here. It was a holiday. So I was just busy that day. But yeah, we had a new high come up on Friday of last week. So the day after Thanksgiving, which is nice because it's after day 30 in the 30-day cycle or 60-day cycle. And, that makes it a proper, technically right translated cycle, which is kind of what I was hoping to see. So that's good. I think things are still bullish. I did want to kind of look at a little bit, and I'll dig into this more in a minute. But, right now we are basically just touching right on the 20-day moving average. A lot of alts we're seeing rolling over. But I mean, ultimately, this still looks really healthy to me. I mean, like if you draw just a trend line, here, like we're still, just consolidating, generally slowly grinding upwards, setting new highs along the way, not, really setting new lows yet. We've, basically higher lows. We've had some wicks down, one close below the 20-day moving average in this whole run here. And it immediately reversed and was basically engulfed the next day. So, yeah, all of this looks generally healthy, and it's still continuing to be fueled by the dollar, the Dixie going down and global net liquidity going up. So the overall macro environment hasn't changed, and it's continuing to power risk assets, and that's that's what we're seeing. So of course we're going to have days that are red, because you just do, but like that's fine, and this is all, I'll take this all day long. One other kind of interesting thing somebody posted on Twitter, and I thought this was an interesting post, so I just kind of replicated it here. So we hit on the monthly time frame, we hit the top of the Bollinger Band for the first time in this cycle, and that's important because if you look at like the last cycle, we hit the top of the Bollinger Band on day 182 roughly. This time it took us almost a year exactly from the bottom, from the low, to hit the top of the band. And here it took us basically 6 months. Going back to the 2017 cycle, it took more than a year. So this is basically what this means is this is just a good indication that this is like a nice healthy trajectory, uptrend. We didn't go too far too fast, which was resulted in, just kind of it having to basically consolidate. And then we had the pandemic in the middle of that. But even still, we would have probably gone sideways anyway. And so this, I think, is really good to see this nice sort of steady, slower grind upwards, as opposed to this big manic just peak that we had coming right out of the lows in the beginning of the last cycle, basically. So that's good. That's just yet another indication that this is a lot more like the 2017 cycle. Not that I'm saying it's going to play out exactly this way. Who knows? But obviously, so far so good. Is really all I'll say there. We're on the right track. I did want to touch on the monthly time frame here because I got rid of the channel that I've been basing everything off of lately, because we've pretty much closed above that, and we're the month isn't out yet for the month of November yet, but unless barring any sort of catastrophic drop in the coming week, which I don't think we're going to have, we're gonna close this month out above this. So yeah, so basically these levels, so I've got new levels here currently, and they're all based on these high time frame monthly candle bodies. So currently we had the one that we broke out, which was basically the top of the range that I had drawn there before, right at about 35,000. The next level up we've got is the bottom of these candle bodies right here, and that's currently at basically 38.5. And if you'll notice when we set that new cycle high the other day, it was like a perfect touch right at this level, at this 38.5 level. In fact, what did it get to? It was 38.454. Yeah, whatever. So yeah, perfect touch right on this 38.5, perfect touch right with these candle bodies here. And so what does that mean? Let's look. So what does that mean for the next step up? What does that look like? Well, a couple things I'm looking at. We got these here, but this isn't really this was more of like kind of a continuation here. So I'm not really putting as much stock into this, but I'm looking at these candle bodies here from this initial rejection in the bear trend, and I think that is in terms of like a resistance level based on candle bodies, on monthly high time frame candle bodies, that's like the cleanest level we have here. And so that's looking at 45.5 basically. So to me, the next level up is 45.5 in terms of like major resistance, major high time frame resistance. So that's what I'm going to be looking for. That's what I'm going to have my chart set on kind of going forward until those levels change. But now if we kind of zoom in on the weekly, yeah, here's those same levels. So if you notice, actually Bitcoin looks a little bit less cooked than a lot of these alts that I'm going to dig into here in a second. It's actually a fair bit inside the Bollinger Bands now. We've got the 10-week kind of coming up, hopefully to meet this support level. I'd like to see the 10-week come up and meet this support level before price comes down to meet it. To me, that would be ideal. But regardless, I am looking at this 35,000 being kind of a good, reasonable support level. Sure, we could go down. We could come down and actually meet the 10-week moving average, and that would be fine too. That's certainly not an unhealthy thing to have happen. But in terms of just kind of horizontal levels, I'm really kind of looking at this 35,000 level as kind of the line in the sand right now, is in terms of a good level of support that I'd like to see it hold, because basically that was, more or less the breakout level. And yeah, that's what I want to see. So that's the level I'm looking at here. And then again, on the high side, 38.5 is basically where we're at now. I do think we're going to probably get past this sooner rather than later. But I think it's important to kind of dig in on the daily here too and see. So right now, actually, I've got this trend line drawn just to kind of see what this is. Going all the way back to basically the bottom of the start of this run here. And it touched here, it did kind of it blew through it here, but it's basically come right back up to sort of meet this trend line. So this is sort of the trajectory that we're on right now. And as you can see, it's continuing to ride that trajectory almost perfectly, during this run that it's on right now, which isn't a coincidence. So yeah, so basically, right now, just kind of holding support on the 20-day moving average. This is perfectly fine. This is a mean reversion. This is, after touching the top of the bands, it's, you want to see it kind of come down, reset, and then come back up again. So none of this is alarming to me. I still think there's gas left in the tank. I know I keep saying every week now for probably 3 or 4 weeks in a row, I think we still have another week left. I think in fact, it's kind of become a bit of a meme, but like, yeah, we might even have more than that. I mean, it's possible that, we might just kind of hold steady and grind slowly upwards until, we kind of get closer to this ETF approval deadline and then just sort of launch from there. So it's clear that anytime there's any kind of major selling event, it's getting bought up, and it's getting bought up at higher prices each day. And so far the bulls are in control and continue to be in control. And again, I think I keep saying that sort of my criteria I'm looking for there is until we start seeing like consecutive daily closes below this 20-day moving average, it's still an uptrend, and that's what we're still seeing. We had one close below it here, and really that's it. We've just had the one close, and it immediately was engulfed. So right now we're sort of at the line. We've wicked down below it a few times, a handful of times, but never actually closed below it outside of this one here. So I think that's relevant. Another thing I wanted to point out to on the weekly time frame. So is these bearish divergence flags. Now, if you remember, we had the one here, and then for like the whole last month, there's been one here. And each time we'd have a green week, it would just kind of bump that flag up to the next one and up to the next one. And each time we'd have a green week, it would just keep bumping it upwards and upwards. And now it's just gone. Now it's gone altogether. Which tells me that, there's momentum on the, higher time frame still to the upside. And this just kind of reinforces that. So that was interesting to see too. I'm also glad to see sort of volume generally ticking up to the upside. The volume moving average is generally ticking up. We're sort of posting above average volumes again all throughout this uptrend here. So all of that's good. There's money coming into the space, and it's reflected here. So what else do we got? Let's look at some of these other ones, because a lot of these are kind of rolling over on the daily time frame, and on the weekly time frame they look super cooked. Although Ethereum on the weekly actually looks pretty healthy too. It's not super cooked. It's kind of just consolidating, going sideways, letting the moving averages catch up to it. It's not blasted way out above the top of the bands like it was. It didn't even really go that far overextended. So I think on the weekly Ethereum actually looks pretty healthy, and even on the daily it does too. So that's due in some part to the fact that it didn't go up as much as some of these other alts did to begin with, but I still think like ETH looks like a nice healthy trending chart compared to like Solana, for example. So I'm going to go through all these kind of on the weekly first, and then kind of drill in. But and as always, the top chart is the USD pair. The bottom chart is the Bitcoin pair. This is how I set up all my charts basically. But this one got way overextended, and of course, I wasn't surprised to see this bearish divergence flag pop up on the weekly time frame, and of course that's continuing to hold now. Now we've got a consecutive red week in a row here, and honestly, we needed to have that, because I mean it was well overextended. We'd had multiple weeks closing above the top of the bands. In fact, even this red one still closed above the band. So we needed to kind of have a reset. In fact, if you look, the 20-week moving average is all the way down here. So like a mean reversion on the weekly time frame would put you back down to like $30, give or take. Right now we're at 54. And this wouldn't even constitute like an unhealthy move. This is what you would expect to see on weekly timeframes. This is just how overextended it was. And a lot of these charts I'm going to look at are the same or even worse. So on the Bitcoin pair, it's a little bit better. It's not quite as overextended from the center of the bands on the weekly, but still, a lot. And so this is due. But if we look at it on the daily, it doesn't look bad. It still doesn't look that crazy. It doesn't look like it's melting down at all. It's a little below the 20-day moving average, compared to like how Bitcoin is sort of, kind of just holding right at it, roughly. But, again, this is okay. And against Bitcoin, it's okay. Keep in mind, this is the 20-day moving average. The 20-week moving average is all the way down here. So it's still well outpacing Bitcoin effectively. And it's still in a big uptrend. So this is all fine. It does indicate that it's kind of losing steam. We are seeing these moving averages look like they're maybe going to cross over. We are seeing price look like it's starting to cross over. And some of these are even worse than this. So this kind of, coincides with this bearish divergence flag that we're seeing on the weekly. This is what that looks like on the daily, is you start to see the 10 and the 20 rolling over, the 10 crossing down below the 20, things like that. But overall, this is, unless I think what's going to happen here, just kind of looking at this, if Bitcoin continues to kind of just slowly grind up and doesn't do any big major moves, I think we're going to see a lot of these alts, slowly come around, roll over, and just reset. I don't know if that means that this will, hold support at this breakout level, basically on this channel that it had, or, if these moving averages are going to kind of come up to meet it, or it's probably going to meet, well, look, if you meet somewhere in the middle, basically is right here at the top of this channel, which is exactly what I was just saying. So that's kind of what I'm looking at here for Solana in terms of support, is probably back down to, what do we have this at? 46, 47, somewhere in there. And then we'll sort of see what things look like from there. It might bounce before then, but that's kind of the level I'm seeing there in terms of support. If we look at BitTensor is also, again, way overextended. But I am glad to see that now the 20-week moving average basically has caught up to the breakout level on the weekly time frame here. So still, that's a long way to fall. Obviously, it's going from $234 currently down to about $95, which is a big drop. And that's what happens when this stuff gets so overextended like that. Is you got to be prepared for some pretty precipitous corrections and still have it be sort of quote normal within the realm of crypto. But that's the name of the game with alts here, and that's just how it works, and that's what you sign up for. So and all that's okay, because you have to know that like even if it comes down here and touches this, it could just as easily bounce right back up here and be right back where it is a week or two later or less. It doesn't matter if something like this, a lower. This is kind of a lower to mid cap alt at this point. This stuff can move 30% in a day. So like, who cares if it drops 30% or whatever? That's just how these are. So you're going to kind of see a repeating pattern here. A lot of these, they're just hovering outside the top of their Bollinger Bands on the weekly time frame. They're all pretty well overextended. Are they cooked? I don't know. Are they just taking a breather? Possibly. But the last time this was that much overextended, it corrected for quite a while before it eventually blew back up again. So I think, again, if Bitcoin continues to just sort of grind sideways, we'll probably see these alts bleed for a little while. I don't think necessarily they'll lose their major support levels, but they'll probably not necessarily be setting new highs for some days or weeks, unless, again, Bitcoin, goes on another run again. Yeah, Rio is even more ridiculous. I mean, that's actually... yeah, just stupid. I mean, stupid. This is like as overextended as it gets. So this needs to come back down to earth, basically. Zero Knowledge actually looks better. I don't have that on the weekly just because there's so little price history. I do like, though, that on the weekly, it did come back down and touch its 10-week moving average here just a couple of weeks ago. And, that was sort of like a nice, healthy retrace after breaking out. It came back down. This was the breakout level, came down, tapped the weekly 10-week moving average, but closed above it, closed right at the support level, at the breakout level, and then just boom, did it like a 2x basically in a couple of days or a couple of hours even, I think. And then it's come back down to earth a little bit, but that's okay. Like if you look at it on the daily, this actually looks pretty healthy. I think this is a decent looking chart. It like I said, it did that 2x in relatively short order, and then just has sort of gone sideways and let the moving averages sort of catch up to it. So this chart actually looks better than a lot of these in that it's not quite so crazy overextended. It did this initial sort of 10x run earlier than I think a lot of these other bigger cap alts did. And so it had to kind of consolidate that for a bit. And then it boom, just did a quick 2x. And now it's sort of riding sideways again. So I like the looks of this chart a little bit better. I don't think it's necessarily got as much downside to go. This is kind of a new one for me that I took a punt on Taraxa. So this is sort of a kooky chart also. It did this big crazy run and then again, just consolidated for weeks, basically for months. And then just did another massive run. And now it's kind of doing the same thing. But if you look at it on the daily, again, to point out too, I like this because one of the reasons I actually bought this chart because it this is on the Bitcoin pair. It punched way up above and it held sideways. It just went sideways for what is that, 2.5 months or more. But I love how it bounced off the bull market support band on the weekly against Bitcoin and then just rocketed back up from there. So it's playing out well and showing solid relative strength against Bitcoin right now. And so that's kind of what, convinced me to kind of go in on it a little bit. And I like what it's doing here too on the daily time frame even. It's coming up to the band and mean reverting, basically bouncing off the middle, coming up to the top, and then just mean reverting. And so that's like healthy price action. And I actually kind of would prefer that, as opposed to these just big, massive, crazy runs all day, every day. I sort of like this more staggered approach. And I think this is not a bad looking chart too. So Rune's actually in the green on the day, I think. So is and so is this Taraxa too. It's on the green on the day too. So these are both, compared to a lot of other stuff that's going on right now, looking pretty good. Rune, I think, is continuing to show really solid strength, even though it's way overextended on the weekly and even on the daily. Like if you look, oops. Well, okay. Actually, yeah, no, on the daily, it's nice. That's nice. That's perfect. It does kind of look like it's going to roll over a bit, though. You're starting to see the 10 want to cross down below the 20. So we'll see what that does. But really, it just sort of looks like a bull flag as much as anything. Injective is interesting because this one actually, so this one ran up on the weekly, and it's similar to Bitcoin, I think, in a lot of ways. But on the daily, it actually did roll over. It kind of rolled all the way over. It actually came down all the way down to the bottom of its bands. The 10 crossed well below the 20. So it did like a technical trend reversal on the daily time frame. But then, I like that it bounced off the bottom of the bands, shot right back up to the top. Not quite to the top, but it shot back above the 20-day moving average, and is holding that right now. And we're starting to see the 10 getting ready to cross back up over. So this is nice. It had this big run. This is another good, this is sort of reminiscent of what was it? No. Of Zero Knowledge. Oh yeah. Okay. Sorry. This one here. I was like, yeah. So it rolled over, while everything else was kind of pumping. It was sort of going sideways, and then it had its pump. And then if you look at Injective, it's kind of doing the same thing. It's rolling over after a big, massive run up. I don't know actually how big was that. I'm curious. Oops. Starting from here to here. So it's 150%. So that's, yeah. So after that, it's just chilling, basically, and it's going sideways. But this is a nice, healthy consolidation. Again, nice to see it bounce off the bottom of these bands and not continue down. It didn't even make it all the way back down to its breakout level in this channel that it was in for many, many months. So that was nice to see too. That's like a sign of strength. And yeah, so good stuff. And then last couple here, Kujira's like rolling over. I just kind of got some nonsense over here that I've been looking at. This one's crazy. I've been looking at just really degen stuff, degen meme coins, and looking to find little random gems. But a lot of them look like they're rolling over too. So kind of lastly, let's just see. Touched on that. Let's look at dominance here real quick. You can kind of see, at least in the short term, Bitcoin is kind of taken back over a little bit. You're starting to see alts roll over a little bit. Not surprised, because they did go, they've been on a big run, and they did kind of go straight up. And so it's not uncommon to see them take a bit of a breather. I mean, even, Bitcoin did the same thing, basically, just like a little bit earlier, like this is funny. If you look at this is, okay, look where this lines up. So Bitcoin peaks right here, and the Bitcoin peak is exactly at this dip. And as soon as Bitcoin peaks, alts go on a big run. They immediately reverse. So, now it's basically reversing again, and you'll probably see Bitcoin kind of go on another bit of a run as this comes back down to probably touch this kind of trend line right here, and then it's just going to kind of repeat itself. So, but in the larger trend, you can see that alt dominance is increasing at a greater rate than Bitcoin dominance is. And so, if you kind of want to buckle up and hold on tight, you can ride this wave and do pretty good with it. Or you can just, throw some money here and, close your computer and come back in 2 years and not make yourself crazy. So So yeah, anyway, that's kind of what I'm looking at. Kind of just to recap, I'd like to see Bitcoin hold this and not, close too much below this. I don't care if it wicks down, but as soon as we start seeing consecutive closes below this red 10-day moving average, then I'm going to start to wonder if maybe this rally is out of steam, and then I'm going to be looking for this 35,000 level as like the key support level. So that's where we're sitting right now. In the meantime, I'm anxiously awaiting for this bull market support band to rapidly catch up and make its way up into this area to really just kind of lock in this area and sort of cement these gains. But until then, we've got a lot of room here. What do we got here on the Bitcoin chart in terms of, so from where we are now all the way down to here, that's a good 18% dip. That would take us down to 30,000. So that can happen. And Bitcoin does that, 10, 15 times in the course of in the course of a cycle. So in the course of probably in the next 2 years, I'm saying that's going to happen at least that many times. So don't think it can't, because it totally will. So just kind of keep that in mind. But in the meantime, that's not my base case. I do think it will likely hold this support level, just mainly because of the ETF narrative. I don't think there's that much selling pressure right now. I don't think that many people are going to want to sell this close to the ETF approval, because really it's like every day there's new news stories about, conversations going on between the SEC and the ETF applicants. And, anybody who knows anything about crypto doesn't want to be selling their Bitcoin right now, because they know that literally at any day, some news could come out that is just going to send this thing up, 30% or whatever, or well up to this next, resistance level up here at 45,000. So that's why I just don't think we're going to see at this moment anyway, a big drop back down, a big 18% drop back down to this bull market support band. I think it just makes more sense that it would probably sort of hold this level, because as you can see, anytime anybody wants to sell, there's buyers coming in, and that number just keeps, that sort of base level just keeps inching up higher and higher each day. So I think that's going to continue basically until this ETF, whether that happens this week or, in January, when the deadline is. So, that's my take on that. So in the meantime, we're somewhere in here. We're somewhere in this range. And I think we're closer to the top than the bottom. And I think we're more likely to punch through the top than we are the bottom, at this point in time. So, yeah. All right. Well, let's, on that, I think I'm going to end on that note, and, we'll see what things look like on Thursday. And, thanks for watching. I'll see you.